Welcome back to Almost Machining. I'm Phil. What we have here is a 1 horsepower electric motor off of grinder. I have cleaned all the paint off of it, prepped it, primed it. I have varnished the stator, at least the stator core. So the magnetic core, it's just the steel laminations inside the motor on both sides. I'm going to be starting to cut the fish paper to fit into those to accept the coils, and then winding the new coils out of 24 gauge wire. I believe I have enough to complete the job. Here's the fifth one that I took out. So this is one of the ones that's on the outside. So on the motor itself, it had 1 set, 2 set, 3, 4, and then 5 and 6 sets of these coils. Each one had 4 windings for each set. I'll produce new ones of these out of the wire. And I'll show some photos, maybe some narration about the process when I was taking those apart. But I'm going to go ahead and prepare to get the coils wound and starting to install them into this. Stick around for more on this. We'll just flow through it as we go. When I cut my fish paper, it comes in these rolls. And I just use I don't really know what this, just like a sheet cutter, or if you had a guillotine style cutter. I just set some pieces of tape up to predetermine where I'm going to be cutting at. So I can just quickly get my piece in, come up to the line that I've got set. I push down, cut, and I've got the piece that I want. And I'll fold them so that they fit into the grooves. So what we have here is my lathe. I have a 5C collet closer and I think a 5/8 collet holding just a turn, basically a dead center is how I'm using that, and then a live center in the tailstock. And for winding the coils, I just bought this off Amazon. It's a lot better than the plaster molds that I've made in the past, but this is just going to go in here between the 2 centers. I don't use a lot of pressure. In fact, as the wire pressure builds up on them, it gets harder and harder. So I'm able to just manually turn this, and then I have my spool of wire riding on a reamer locked in the tool post. And I think that what I end up with is a really nice way of just counting around as I go. 1, 2, 3, etc. for each one, and I'll just speed the video up and show how I go along and probably get this from a slightly different angle. And the goal is for this part, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, That's all 4 to you. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, 77, 78, 79, 80, 81, 82, 83, 84, 85, 86, 87, 88, 89, 90, 91, 92, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104, 105, 106, 107, 108, 109, 110, 111, 112, 113, 114, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, 121, 122, 123, 124, 125 Okay, so I've taken that back out of the lathe, and what I start with is these two top screws here. There's wing nuts. I just spin the wing nuts off, remove that bar, and then I'll come over here and I'll loosen up this wing nut completely. Pull the washer off it. It's a different size wing nut, so it makes it kind of straightforward and simple. And then pop that piece out. So now they're together, just like that. Turn it upside down and kind of let these just fall right off. And then unwind the last. That's it. And then I'll go ahead and set this up for the next run, which is I set it so that this little angular piece down here in the plastic lines up with the number 4 mark, and it's the same on the other side. And that was just a calculated position from using the previous wire wraps, and then a test run with a smaller diameter wire that I had extra of. And when I put this back together, I try to make sure that the hole's a little bit close to the middle. I don't shoot for perfect, but I don't know if it matters that much, or if it matters at all. I'm not having too much luck here right now. Check it. Tighten it up. And now it's ready for one more round. Actually 2 more. There's 2 more rounds to do. So when I took apart the motor, I wrote down as each individual coil came out. Like, here's the first one I pulled out, 66 to 67, 67 to 68, 66, and 67 turns on the wire. And then of course I marked any kind of external wire that came out with it. So in this case, on the first one that came out, the wire T9 came out on the outer, or the largest coil. Number 2 had T6 on the outer, T3 on the inner. Number 5 didn't have anything connected to it. Number 3 didn't have anything connected to it. This is because those wires burned off. Number 4, which is one of the ones I have in, T5 was on the outer. And then on number 6, T1 was on the inner, and T4 was on the outer. And I just wrote down the counts, and I'm using the check marks as I go along and complete each individual winding that I've completed. We're about to go on to number 3 here, which has 68, 65, 62, and 73. I may bring that 73 down to 68, as there are no others that are quite that high. And that just could have been the way that they hand wound this. Is an older motor. I don't know if it was done in a digital age. I'm sure that somebody took great care and great time in doing this. That is an outlier for me, though. It's too it's a little too large compared to the others. It's 5 greater than the highest other, which is 68. And that so I'm going to bring this one down. Let's go over to the machine and take a look at that. So let's see, I got this little headlamp thing on, and it's a good thing I went and got the light, because I was starting to go down the wrong path here. I need to flip this around. Now we're on the right side looking in. So let's get this coil set back out. They're out. Let's start getting this in here. This one's going. It's not fun. So there's that, and I put it in the wrong slot. So I just very carefully pull it back out and start into the right one. This is
this is a part that I really didn't want to film, but because of the nature of trying to do this, it's never it never seems simple. It's always a lot of manipulation, moving things around. It looks like on a lot of it, it starts to look like I have no earthly idea what I'm doing. And if you ever get a chance, you'll feel exactly what I'm talking about. It's not, none of this is there's no other way than to just kind of wiggle the individual wires in. If you try to make really tight bundles, you can't get them in there. It's impossible. That's why you see the loops are always larger. The automated winding machines are really nice though. If you've ever caught one of those videos where the machines are in there flying back and forth, putting this stuff in, those are really nice. There, that one's in, and it has to be pushed out. I'm going to be hammering. I'll be taking a brass and rubber ball hammer and bending these all out to where they need to be. So it's not what you see me doing bending. It's not hurting any of the wires. It's the way it's done. Once these are all in, they'll be spread back. Like these here will come out and bend over, land on the back. They'll all be laid flat and then strung together, which is really cool. So we have the first one in there, and if you'll notice the crossover wire here, go ahead and get that out of the way. The crossover wire now comes on to the next one, and if I take this, we got roly-poly here. Let me stop that. If I take this wire and fish it through, you'll notice that the crossover wire is kind of on the wrong side. This wire needs to be on the top of this one, so I need to bring this out. Flip it. Yep. And now it's not in the right spot at all. So I have to do kind of like a Jenga here, where I rotate it back around, and now my wire's on the bottom, and the crossover wire is on the top. And if I have a size problem or incompatibility with the size, then I can start to manipulate the wires from each individual coil set to give me just a little bit of extra across there. That's why when I put it on the winding jig, that I had that extra loop, and then it came back around the top on the next set. Always trying to do it the same way, because once you build up your initial pattern, you want to try and maintain that pattern. So this one, I have to flatten it now. So I'm starting to get wider than the stator's bar set. I don't like to push the wires too hard against the actual stator, because if they start to drag too much on it, some of their insulation can get wound up, or not wound up, can get removed. And that's one thing you certainly want to avoid when doing this. That's also why I pre-varnish the stators, to kind of help reduce some of that friction between the pieces. And you can see, just by setting it in place, it's kind of started to go into the wrong slot here. What the hell? I don't like where that's coming out at. That'll be okay. Let me flatten this back out some. Get between the fish paper. This is the thing, you don't want to have your wires on the inside or the outside of the fish paper inside where they're touching the stator. Anywhere that it's not insulated or protected can become an area where you're running the risk of a ground fault. And the ground fault might not show up till later, after the motor has been running and vibration sits in and it just rubs the piece of the wire off. So now we can see that I have my output from the inner coming here, and it's rather large. It's a lot larger than what it probably should be, and I don't like the fact that I'm over this one. So I'm going to take this off. When you have the extra wire, you can use that to come back through, and you can fish it and do as you wish, right? And in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and pull the rest of these through there, so I don't have to deal with this extra bit of wire being free or in the wrong spot. It's just not making me feel really well. There. Back in here, you can see where that extra little bit of wire has gone, or has come from, basically, all of this other set. I'll straighten that back out first. Now, in order to tighten this wire up right here, I need to twist this coil set, in this case counterclockwise, so that it tightens up the tension on this wire. You don't want to have any of your wires to be, the wire will be taut, but you don't want it to be loose like that, because there's really nowhere else to stick it, and it runs the risk of leaving a potential magnetic field somewhere else. So I'm just going to manipulate this whole set until see how it's getting tighter and tighter each time I come around there. As I pull it through. I'm not moving it, just a little bit at a time there. So now I have, that wire is now in a much better position to do its job as being part of this motor. So here's the initial in, round through that coil, back out through this one. Let's get the next one getting ready to go in. So now we have a little bit of extra wire to deal with. I think that's where a lot of times you end up with those extra pieces, right? So if I flip it this way, this wire's going to be on the bottom again. Okay, I think I like where this is going. I'm going to take this one to the back. I don't necessarily dislike that, but I don't like it, so let's fix that. This one might be easier to get in here first. I am trying to stay out of the way. It's just it's not simple. That one's in. We'll come back over here. This one has to go into down here. So I'll lift up those coils or wires as they've gone into different slots. Gently fish it into the next one. That last wire laid in. Get a little bend down and take a look at what's going on. So we have our out. Here's our in. You can see that it has a lot of extra. There's a lot of extra here. So I'll continue to pop this tie off now. And I'll start to rotate this one around to bring tension onto that. there's not a lot of room to work on this left side to me, because there's already two. This is now the second coil in that stator set. And this is still able to maintain the wire counts. They're just kind of moving a little bit, right? We keep tweezers and all kinds of other little sticks and pointy things, paintbrushes, small pliers to manipulate and change up what's actually happening on the inside here, as this all goes around and in. So one more set for this piece. That's got enough tension there. And these all get pulled. They literally get pulled and fused together by the varnish in that same pattern. It's like winding a little speaker wire, basically. So it's not the simplest thing to do, but I did want you guys to see how I go about doing at least one of these. The very first one's oftentimes the easiest. The last one, you can start to see how it's getting to be a mess inside here. There's tons and tons of wires built up. You have no freedom. The motion gets restricted. At least I can pretty much pass my hand through this set. The very first one that I did, I was unable to. I couldn't put my hand through the stator. It was such a small motor. There's that. And this last one over here. It's mostly falling into place. Look at that. Nice. I'll give it a little bit of a push to spread it out a little bit. And now, just like the others, I need to provide the extra tension on another piece. So once again, I'll take this end off for this tie. And the goal is going to be to tighten this particular wire right here. At the same time, keep this one in there as well. I don't know why it's winding. Here we go. I must have pulled on something. See, not exactly simple. I wish it was, or this would be something that made a lot of sense and came across as being a quick process. It's just not. I can't tell where it's kind of binding up right now. I just pulled that wire completely out. I know there's probably better ways to initially start this out. I'm not there yet. I haven't done enough of them. We're getting close. It keeps wanting to pull back, and I'm not understanding that right now. There we go. That wire's now tightened down below. And then I'm just going to bend these out of the way, like I've done with the others. I'll come back and clean all that out after I get the last sets in. Or I may start positioning this better before I get the last set in, and then to help keep all this in check, I will add this piece in right now, because I don't want any of these to come free. So here's the new set that we just placed in. It has its in on the left, it's out on the right down below. Let's verify that it's all in the right place. So we have single, 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 and then over here I should be double, 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 and that aligns with now I have this phase. Let's see if I can get this better. So there's this phase pole set, and now this phase pole set. Kind of like a big bus. And I'll carry on. The next set, I have to look at my drawing to make exactly sure where it goes, but I believe it goes from these, let's see, 1, 2, 3, from these 4 to these 4, and then these 4 to these 4. But just twist it again a few more degrees. I haven't looked at the phase. Thank you.
All right, so the battery died. Let's take a closer look at this really quick. You can see the browns where it's soaking in. If I just wipe on there, it's just peeling that away. This stuff does just a fantastic job. I don't recommend it on all materials. I did it on a small test piece to make sure that this wasn't going to be a problem. And that's how you should treat all chemicals anyway. If you're going to do it, try it on something that's not going to be damaged first before you go forward with it. Here's one that this is where I initially started cleaning. This was completely black inside of here with that stuff, and it's just easily coming up now. And I'll get them with Q-tips, get all this nice and cleaned up. I almost restored to just like new condition. This one which sat really close to the windings. It actually had, I'll show a picture if I can. It had this stuff all over it, and you can see just coming off. This isn't even a painted piece. Let me let's grab a towel really quick. To give an idea, right here, just wipe that off. And see, that's the garbage that's coming off of there. Quite nice. I like this. Stick around. I think I'll end this video at this point, and we'll bring you back and start off with the finished results of all the rest of the cleanup, and then really get into finishing up the windings. They're ready to go. Thank you very much.